Hello everybody, this is Electrified Reviews and this is the G63 scooter from Urban Drift. This is an absolute tank of a scooter. Now there's a lot of scooters out there that say they're off-road scooters and they do okay at it. This one is the first one I've ridden on that I was like, hey, this is actually so much fun that, you know, it's right up there with, almost mountain biking for me. Like, it's a good time. It is big, it is rugged, it's got larger wheels than a lot of off-road scooters. These are 11-inch diameter wheels down here, so that gives you a lot better attack angle against bumps on the ground. It makes a huge difference for ride comfort. And this suspension on here, I mean, this is huge. It's like a coil swing arm suspension, which a lot of scooters do have, but this is a lot more heavy duty. The travel to it, like, check this out, it has such a big range of travel so that it just smooths everything out. It feels awesome taking on, huge bumps, jumping down curbs, pretty much anything. Very sturdy and durable frame too. This is constructed using A3 carbon steel, so it is just, rock solid. You've got this double stem design right here. Now it's not very adjustable, which is one downside here. This is the only height of the stem that you get. For most people it'll probably be at a good height, but if you're taller like me, 6'3", it's a little bit short for me. Like, I would like it to be a little bit higher, but hey, it still gets the job done. Now a downside of this sturdy construction is weight. This thing weighs a lot. I weighed it myself and it tipped the scales at 91 pounds. So if you live on like an upper level apartment or something like that, carrying up and down the stairs, not going to be a good time. Transporting it in a vehicle, also kind of difficult. Might require 2 people for some of the heavy lifting. Now you can do it in 2 trips because this scooter's got a nice feature that we actually don't see a lot on scooters. The battery is completely removable. Now it's let me turn this here so you can see. It's definitely got a sort of a MacGyver bolt-on vibe to it. But you lift this up to release the battery, and then it's fully unlocked. So you can just grab the handle and pop it right out. So you can transport the battery in a separate trip. That'll save you maybe 18-20 pounds. So then the scooter itself will only weigh about 70. So that can certainly help. And this opens up the possibility of hot swapping batteries if you wanted to have a second one for a really long riding days. But with a 960 watt-hour battery pack, you're probably not going to need a second one. That's a lot of range. I was able to get, I did 16 miles of pretty heavy riding and still had 40% of the battery left. So if you're, really pushing it using both motors, you can probably get, 25 miles or so range out of it, which is a decent amount of time to be in the saddle. And if you use just one motor, don't ride at top speed, then you can get a lot more range. So I'm going to secure this back in here. Now there's an extra security feature for the battery right here, this little combination lock, so that you can lock the battery in place so that it can't be removed, which is a great feature, but I haven't been able to use it because I don't know what the combination code is. My scooter actually didn't come with any kind of a manual, and that might just be because it's a review demo unit, but it was packaged like it was new. So, that would have been nice to have. I talked with my representative at Urban Drift and they sent me the electronic manual, but it didn't have anything for the combination lock, and it also didn't have anything for the smart app that's supposed to pair with the scooter. I actually messaged Urban Drift support to ask them, like, hey, how do I pair this app with the scooter? I downloaded it, but I can't figure out how to put the scooter into pairing mode, and they just responded with one word and told me the name of the app again. So not super helpful on the support end of things. So the scooter does have kind of a almost like kind of an unfinished, rough around the edges vibe for some of the design points, like the battery, or for example on the back right here, there is a mounting point right here so you can put in a seat post. You can install a seat so you can ride this as a sitting scooter instead of standing, which is a cool feature. It doesn't come with the seat, so you'd have to buy one from them or get your own. They're pretty standard, but it's just not a very good design, even though they do have this cover for it, because it's just sticking out of the rear footrest right here. And so if you're trying to use the footrest, then it's just digging into the arch of your foot, or just like it's a really awkward positioning here if you're not using a seat, which I honestly never really ride these with seats on them. But if you do want to stick a seat in there, you can. So it is nice to have that option. Let's talk electronics here. So we showed you the battery. That's a big 48 volt, 20 amp hour battery, nice high capacity of 960 watt hours. You've got 2 motors here in the front hub and in the rear hub. These are 1200 watt motors, which gives you 2400 watts of total power if you're using both wheels at the same time, which is the most fun way to ride this scooter. You get tons of torque. You can just accelerate right up hills. It can handle pretty much any terrain when you're riding that configuration, but it's going to drain the battery a lot lot more quickly, so just be aware of that. If you really want to maximize your range, you can put it into front motor or rear motor mode, whichever you prefer. Rear is probably the safer and easier one to control. Now, speaking of terrain, you get a few different options for your wheels on this scooter. Now, I've got the off-road ones. This is a big, knobby, aggressive tread, definitely meant for these off-roads. They're pretty loud on pavement because of how knobby they are. These things feel amazing on these off-road terrains. They don't slip at all. They're super fun to ride on. If you really want to go crazy, you can actually get sort of like a mini snowmobile tread replacement tire, so you can ride it in the snow, which would be so much fun. I'd love to try that in the winter sometime. But for most people, I think you're probably going to want to go with the knobby tires, because this really is more of an off-road scooter. Now, you can ride it on city streets, absolutely, and I mean, this thing can cruise. You know, I was able to get it up to speeds of what I hit like 59 kilometers per hour, and felt amazingly stable, even though it doesn't have a steering damper, just because of how sturdily the frame is built and having those larger diameter wheels. But you're kind of missing some niceties that you would like to have if you are, you know, riding in traffic, commuting on city streets. And most of that kind of has to do with lighting. So let's just kind of run through this here. You get a headlight up here, and it is very bright, but it is a very like narrow beam, very focused. And so it's not great for illuminating the road ahead of you. People can see you pretty well, but this is not a good place to have it mounted way down here, because when it's mounted down low to the ground, it's hard for vehicle drivers to even see it. It's just too low. And so it's a lot better to position your headlights up high on the stem. So that would be nice. There's also there's no turn signals on here, so you can't signal easily to let other people know what you're doing. Now, on a bike, it's pretty easy to signal with one hand, but on a scooter, you generally need to have both hands on the grips most of the time, just because they get a little squirrely otherwise. No horn, but there is this twist bell right here, which is better than nothing. It's good for alerting, you know, other cyclists or foot traffic, but someone in a car, probably not going to hear that. Now, the brake lights are actually fantastic. I'm gonna just go ahead and power them up here. So once the display is on, the brake lights are always on when you're riding. Got these things all dusty, but they're decently light when they're just active like this, and then you get brake light activation that is actually quite bright. When you squeeze those brake levers, that kicks in. Pretty easy to see. Now, it does have the same problem where it's down low, but on a scooter, there's not really any way around that for your brake light. So that's a pretty good touch. But you know, if you're going to be riding this on city streets, I'd like to see, you know, like turn signals, having a loud horn, and a better headlight with a better spread, so you can actually see where you're going effectively and not have to wear or carry an extra light. Well, but you know, all that said, it can't keep up with traffic very well. Like, that's definitely one of the most fun parts about this scooter, is that it's really got some impressive torque and acceleration and just feels great at speed, incredibly stable. Now, for stopping power on here, you've got a combination of electronic and mechanical disc brakes. Now, I wish that these were hydraulic instead of mechanical. You can see the cable right down here. So mechanical brakes, you know, you're pulling on a lever, a cable, to actually activate them. And so you have to squeeze a lot harder than you would with hydraulic disc brakes to actually, you know, bring the scooter to a stop. Now, it's not so bad on here because you do have that combination. So the motors are essentially acting as brakes as well. So as soon as you start to just squeeze on the levers a little bit, that's going to kick in the electronic braking and start slowing you down. And then if you squeeze further, you'll activate the mechanical brakes, even more stopping power. So it does a good job. Really the only downside to it is that electronic brakes are not always the most reliable. They, like, sometimes it feels like they kick in stronger, and other times like they just don't as much. And I've noticed that on just about every scooter I've ridden that has electronic braking. So you can really only fully rely on your standard brakes, in this case the mechanical disc ones. So, you know, just make sure that you've got the grip strength to really squeeze down on those, and, you know, get them to activate. And remember that you have to do maintenance on them every now and then, because these cables stretch and they loosen up over time, and so you have to tighten them. You can, you know, tighten up the barrel adjusters on the brakes to tighten them up a little bit, but at some point you might actually have to tighten up the cables themselves, which can be a little bit more work. It's pretty easy to do. There's guides on YouTube, so just check that out. Okay, I want to show you the folding mechanism, because I actually really do I like the design of this. Like, it's pretty clever. It can be a little jarring to activate. So you pull this down. I'm actually gonna put this kickstand down and see if I can do this with one hand. It's a little bit, definitely kind of better as a two-handed job, but you basically just get this back to this position here, and then you just have to push down on it, and the scooter will fold down. And now it does lock into place while it's folded, And for how big of a scooter it is, it's really honestly pretty compact. The one downside of it when it's folded is that this can still turn, and so it can still kind of bounce around, squirrel around on you. So if you're putting that in the back of your car or something, you'd probably want to figure out some other way to like tie that down and make it a bit more secure. That's the main downside really. And since it is such a like durable, rugged scooter, it's probably not going to get damaged or anything. I'd be more worried about it like hitting other things and damaging them. But yeah, so when you got it folded down, there you go, nice and compact. And then unfolding it is equally difficult to do with one hand, but essentially you just have to lift this up right down here, and so that bolt frees up there, and then you can from there grab onto the handlebar. It'll snap up and lock into place, and then you can secure this right up there. Boom, there you go. You're all locked in, ready to go. I don't really notice any, you know, like wobble or flex in the frame or anything, which I do notice on a lot of scooters. So again, extremely like durable, sturdy construction here. You know, well done for that. Now let's run through the electronics and controls here. They are pretty basic. Now I mentioned earlier there's a smartphone app that you're supposed to be able to pair with the scooter. This lets you see a lot more information. You can change, you know, power settings, other configurations for the scooter. I haven't been able to get the app to pair though. I don't know how to put the scooter into pairing mode. Still waiting on a response from the manufacturer for that. And so I'll put some more details on that if I'm able to in the written review, which is linked in the description of this video. But for now, let's go through the controls. So the display is just part of the handlebars up here. It's just integrated into it, doesn't swivel or anything. Points pretty much straight up, so it's fairly easy to see, but not in bright daylight. I mean, it's I don't know if you guys are even going to be able to make it out here. Like, I can barely see it, and it's actually kind of, you know, overcast. So this could definitely stand to be a bit brighter. Let me see, make sure my lights are not on. They're not, okay. But it shows the battery percentage across the top, and it's just 5 bars, so it's not super precise. You can short press the power button to change your power mode, 1, 2, and 3. That really effectively just sets your top speed. You know, 3 is unlocked, 1 will cap you somewhere around 10 miles an hour. Mode 2 is somewhere around like 20-ish miles an hour. And then 3, as fast as you can get going. And then over here, you've got a button to change your motor control. So there's a little scooter icon on here, and you can change it between both motors, just the front, just the rear. So it's nice to have that. You can, you know, do that on the fly too, which is nice. There's some scooters where you have to stop to actually, you know, go into settings and change which motor is active. So just doing it on the fly is a nice touch here, especially to kind of save power at times when you don't need it. And then you can double tap the power button, and that will just, oops, I didn't do it fast enough. Double tap, there we go. That'll just turn on your lights. So there you can, oh, nope, that one's not on. I must have turned them off again. There we go. So as I mentioned, that is a pretty bright light, but just a little bit too focused. And of course, the rear lights are always on, so that's really just for your headlight. But other than that, that's you know, kind of it for your controls up here. You've got your thumb throttle on the right grip here, and that's pretty much it, which is nice. You know, it's a good, simple and elegant thing. It's, you know, it's easy to figure out. You don't have to be fiddling with the controls a lot to ride. All right, we are going to take this bad boy for a spin, and you know, we got to ride on some some off-road trails here. This is really what this baby is designed for. So I'm going to start off in the most fun mode of all. So I've got it in power level 3, dual motors. We're just, you know, gonna see what we can do out here. Let me get my goggles on. All right. Now, the acceleration is not as brisk as on some smaller diameter wheel scooters. There's less of a mechanical advantage for the motors, but this thing is still quite peppy. You know, I can feel it kind of slipping out a bit if I accelerate full throttle. And this is a pretty rough trail here. It's got some, you know, big rocks and sticks and stuff jutting out. And it feels amazingly smooth. This is a trail I've done on mountain bikes a lot before. And I've taken several scooters here as well, and most of them just didn't feel great, to be honest. There's some sandy spots right here that are just a bit too much, a little bit too deep, but oh, here's a good steep spot. Actually got some air going up there. Now, despite the size and weight of the scooter, it actually does feel pretty nimble, you know, weaving around in the trees. But it is still just like, I don't know, a little bit tight back there. Let me adjust the angle of my camera a bit. I do wish that the stem was up just a little bit higher, because I feel like it's like basically right in my waist. On these trails like this, where it's just a little bit more open, this is where this scooter really shines. Like, it feels awesome, the traction is great. And it is a blast on the pavement too. Like, you can really get zooming. And we'll cut off here and do a little bit more on the rough stuff. We're probably going about 25 miles an hour right now. Not even close to pushing the top speed yet, and even with some of these bigger rocks in here, just rolling right over them. And it helps that this scooter's got a pretty wide deck to it as well, and so I've got my feet spread pretty far apart, with one far forward, one back on the footrest, and so I can have like a nice agile stance. That way my legs provide some more cushioning, and it really feels amazing. Like, this is just a blast to cruise around on. Take it up onto the pavement just to really, push the top speed here. Whoa, that's a fun setup. Acceleration off the line is awesome, and it just, it just keeps on going. We're actually going on a little bit of an uphill incline right now, still accelerating. We're at 52 kilometers per hour now, and it looks like we might be about capping out right there. Oh, there's 53. And it just feels fantastic at speed. I mean, rock stable. I don't feel any kind of speed wobbles. Corners very well too. Nice smooth carving. Now that we are on flatter ground here, I've gotten a little bit more speed out of it. I'm up to 56 kilometers per hour. Pretty solid. Now, it really does eat up the battery when you're riding at full power like this. Just riding around, these few miles for the review today, I've already, it's actually already shown down to 60%, which is kind of wild. Although I guess it has been, I don't know, 5 or 6 miles of, riding full power. But it does really chomp it up. So if you want to, save some power, I'm gonna bump this over to single motor mode. We're gonna ride with just the rear motor. Now, riding with the rear motor, your acceleration's not quite all that, but it's still pretty decent. All right, we'll take off here with just a single motor. Now, I still have it still up in level 3, so we are running in high power just with the one motor, full throttle. So as you can see, compared to the dual motors, acceleration is just not very exciting. Like, it's still decent, we're just now passing 20 miles per hour. So it's all right, and you can get up to a pretty good top speed with just one motor as well. Not quite as high, but if you're, maybe commuting, just riding around town, this would probably be the best way to do it. Just keep it in one motor, really maximize your range. And you can switch it very easily on the fly. So if you, need just like a little bit more out of it, then you can just bump this button right here, boop, and then it's instantly in dual motor mode, and you can even do that while you're holding down the throttle. Alrighty folks, now that's a wrap for the Urban Drift G63 off-road scooter. Now if you got questions or comments on this review, you know what to do. Chime in the comment section down below. You can also check the video description for a link to the full written review. We've got even more details. We've got all the specs over on our full website at electrifiedreviews.com. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. Ride safe out there. Catch you in the next one.